Valve and Steam have just drawn a new line in the sand when it comes to AI-generated content in games on their platform, and we need to discuss this. So the issue here is, when does AI usage need to be fully disclosed, and when does it actually impact the game? Because of course, AI is being used in absolutely everything these days. If, let's say, somebody in the marketing department uses AI to generate, I don't know, some sort of marketing deck to advertise the game somewhere, or is some sort of marketing pitch, does that mean you need to disclose your game uses AI generative content? Because it has kind of, but is it in the game? Who knows? This is very complicated, and this is just going to get worse as time goes on. But I do think, before we get into this, that Steam is actually kind of going down the right path with this. They're trying to, I guess, identify where the damaging use of AI can come from, but also allowing some of the, let's say, maybe better uses of AI to kind of go unnoticed. I guess it's a redefinition of what AI in your game means. Let's break this down. So this is PC Gaming. They do a really good job here of breaking all of this down. But what I'm also going to show you guys is the form itself and the original source over on LinkedIn, of all places, because Simon Careless actually noticed this, and I'll show you this because it's actually quite interesting. So you can see the title here, right? Steam updates AI disclosure form to specify that it is not focused on AI generated content that is consumed by players, not efficiency tools used behind the scenes. So this is where they're trying to draw that line of, do we go down the path saying any sort of AI usage in your game means you have to tag it as AI generated in Steam? Now, this would be a massive problem, because I can tell you right now, everybody in every major studio is using AI. Everybody in a Microsoft-owned studio is using AI. Now, they might be using it for sort of benign things like scheduling meetings or setting up sort of video calls or whatever, right? Or sending emails back and forth. But should that class as AI generated? You see, this is where things are getting ridiculous, right? It's going to be really hard to avoid this stuff. So I actually think Steam are doing the right thing here when they're looking at sort of, you know, really identifying where is the damaging use of this in games. Which, of course, my opinion of that, you guys know what it is, but it's basically, if you're generating content that should be made by artists, then you've got a big problem there, because that content, how is it being generated? You know, it's going to be a problem. I also do think that we're going to get to a point where a game will come out with substantial AI generated content and will be a hit, and that's going to be a really problem, like a problematic thing for the entire industry, that is, because I think a lot of people are probably not going to care, which I think is the shocking thing. I hope you guys care, because I do. I don't want to see AI just everywhere. I mean, what the hell? Maybe we'll see an AI generated movie first or something like that. Who knows? Anyway, Andy Chalk is the author of this, and just basically goes on to set this up. But what I want to do is read this first paragraph, and then I want to jump onto some of the stuff to kind of explain this more, because it is really interesting. So, Epic Games boss Tim Sweeney recently said digital storefronts like Steam should stop using AI disclosure labels, because AI will be involved in nearly all future production anyway. Now, you've got to remember, he would say that because he runs Epic Games, who run Fortnite, and they're obsessed with pumping as much content as possible out with that game. You may remember a certain AI Darth Vader, which didn't go down very well for them the other year. So this guy, I take what he says with a pinch of salt. Not the best. Anyway, AI will be involved in nearly all future production anyway. PC Gamer's Tyler Wilde disagreed, as do I, but he also noted that such disclosures can be tricky for developers. Does it count if you use Photoshop generative fill tool while making concept art that was never intended for the public eye? Or if you use Claude to generate a few code snippets? Or if someone in marketing used ChatGPT to make a spreadsheet? Again, it's that thing. They're postulating the question, where do you draw the line on this stuff? Because, I mean, I use AI. We all use AI, right? I use AI. I talk to AI. I'll give the example. It helped me with the brakes on my bike, or it's been helping me recently with the brakes on my bike. But little things like that. I think it helped me with the headset on my bike or something. I can't quite remember. But it's like, we use AI. AI is in a lot of the stuff that we use. So do I have to disclose that this video is AI generated? Because I haven't actually used any AI in this, so I can't really, like, what AI would I use, right? I will admit, sometimes I do use the generative fill tool on Photoshop to extend backgrounds. I do that. Like, because what it does is extends the gradient of a background, which is actually quite time efficient for me. So in that case, it's cool. And I can also, I think, when I look at AI, when we're talking about efficiency gains through AI, yeah, I think I'm all for that. But when we're talking about it replacing creative jobs, then we've got a really big problem. Because if you're, and everything's a creative job in gaming, even coders, right? You might say that they're boring and they're mechanical and they're machines, but they're still coding, right? They're still creating the code. If we're just offloading loads of that to Claude or some sort of code AI system, then like, what's going on there? That's not great, because when is this going to end? Because then you're going to start generating ultimately artwork through some other model, and that's going to work its way into your game. And this is a big problem. Like, I think, like, the comparison to me and my content would be if this entire video was given to me by an AI chatbot, and then I'm AI, right? Because you could make me AI quite easy. And then my voice is generated with AI, or I'm reading an AI generated script, and then my thumbnail is generated with, I don't know, Photoshop or Google Gemini's Banana Pro, and it's like, then we're crossing the line, right? There are certain things I think you can use it for, and then there are certain things where you're stepping over the line and you've used it too much, and then that content becomes AI generated instead of slightly augmented with AI. But again, that's a slippery slope, right? Because where do we go from that? Like, do we, you can say, I'm on the slippery slope right now. You see how complicated this is? Because, oh my God, I've just admitted to using generative fill in Photoshop to extend a background. I should have gone out and made my own extended background, even though it was colors or whatever. It's like, where does it end? Like, this is the problem with AI, and it's getting so like pervasive. It's becoming normal, and it's an issue. And I think maybe that's where this Tim Sweeney's coming from a little bit. But again, I still think he's more of the viewpoint is, yeah, this is really cost effective. I can have loads of bots producing content for me, and it'll be great. Anyway, to carry on. It seems Valve has also been contemplating these questions and has made a tweak to its AI disclosure form for developers. In its submission form, Valve now specifies that game publishers must disclose pre-made generative AI assets only when used in marketing materials or content that ships with your game and is consumed by the player. That's via a screenshot of the form shared by Simon Careless's Game Discover Co. So I'm going to show you that now. Okay, so this is the new disclosure form. Now, we'll read through this because it is important. So we are aware that many modern game development environments have AI-powered tools built into them. Now, remember, this could be absolutely anything. Anyone, like I said, working on Microsoft-related stuff at a corporate level will be forced to use Copilot. So they're using Copilot. I'm not saying to generate content, but they might be using it for communications back and forth with each other. They might be using it to make slideshows for presentations, all of this kind of stuff. Steam are acknowledging that now. Efficiency gains through use of these tools is not the focus of this section. Instead, it is concerned with the use of AI in creating content that ships with your game and is consumed by players. This includes content such as artwork, sound, narrative, localization, etc. So that's the statement there. Now, of course, this again becomes an issue. You may remember recently, Larian, Sven actually came out and said, we've been looking at using some AI tools to maybe help us with concept and artwork out. Then there was a massive backlash, and he's kind of had to go back on it, although from what I believe, he didn't entirely go back on it. But the question would be this, and I'll ask this to you guys as well. If you use a tool like that to generate your concept art, maybe the AI generates something which ends up working its way through development and then gets maybe polished up and added to the game. At that point, you have generative AI content in your game. That's where the problems are coming from, because where has the AI got the source material to generate that from? Has it plagiarized other creators? In most cases, yeah, because a lot of this stuff is trained on massive data sets where it just takes all of the data from wherever it can find, and the model is based off that. So if it's let's say a concept art model, and it looks at a lot of different concept art styles, it might look at millions of photos and images, and then it combines them together to produce something which is not really produced. It's like an amalgamation of whatever the hell it's been trained on. This is a problem. And how would you stop that? Steam is saying here, efficiency gains, it's a bit vague. It's like, well, that would be efficient, right? So if I wanted to make some concept art, instead of me, let's say, taking on 2 or 3 concept artists to work on it, me as like a manager at X Game Studio could just go, I'm going to just type in, give me 50 concept artwork pieces in a futuristic setting with humans versus aliens, just show me, and it gives me 50, and I'm like, cool, now I want it to be steampunk style, cool. And then I go up to my artists and say, hey guys, I really like this, can you do it? And I bet you this is going on in the corporate environment. And then they're like, okay, and then they're forced to do it, but they know it's come from AI. But that's not right, because where is that? Then you've got generative AI content in your game. It's like, it's really pervasive, all of this stuff is. So I think this idea of efficiency gains, it becomes like, is it efficient, or is it cost cutting, or is it generative AI, or is it not real? There's so much stuff. But I think what Steam are trying to say is things like, it's more efficient for you to say, use AI to break down a long email chain to give you a couple of bullet points for you to go forward, or you've got maybe a big design document for your game and you want to sort of condense it down. You're using AI to condense it down. That's an efficiency gain. I guess that's what they're trying to say here. But again, it's still quite vague, but I still think it's a good thing they're trying to sort of identify this. Anyway, it goes on to say, does this game use generative artificial intelligence to generate content for the game, either pre-rendered or live generated? This includes the game itself, the store page, and any Steam community assets or marketing material, and it's just a tick box. And then it goes on to say, with a store page declaration, please enter a message to players describing how this game uses artificial intelligence. And again, I think this is important because me as a consumer, and again, remember this, like Steam, one of the reasons why Steam is as successful as it is, even though it is an expensive platform, is it is very user-friendly. It's easy to just get a game on Steam and go ahead and play it and do whatever. So Steam are all, and remember, they're not a publicly traded company, so they don't have pressures on them to like keep generating more and more revenue. So they do things which are more slanted towards helping the consumer. I'm not saying they do that all of the time, but they do generally, when it comes to these big platforms, have more of a consumer-orientated approach because they don't have that pressure of endless growth in some ways. Also, they are the biggest platform as well, so it does give them a lot of leeway. And it says, note, this store, the Steam store will display this message under the About This Game section of the Game Store page. You can return to this survey at any time to update it. Then it goes on to say, content generated during gameplay. Because the live generation of AI content can produce novel images, audio, text, and other content which neither the developer nor the Steam review process can verify through standard processes, it is important that you make honest and accurate disclosures about your implementation and its usage. In addition, we'll provide users with tools through Steam Overlay to flag inappropriate or copyright infringing output. And again, that would be, remember what Darth Vader was doing in Fortnite, where he was saying some very dodgy things, let's say, because they just had an AI bot that would use Darth Vader's voice and just would say basically whatever, which is obviously quite bad. And that is an example of live generative AI content, which of course can go and generally does go off the rails. I do just quickly want to show this as well. This is Simon Careless's post. He's from Game Discover Co. And we'll just go over this, but this is basically where I've got the screenshots from. So interestingly, PC game video platform Steam just significantly rewrote but did not remove its Does Your Game Have AI in it dev disclosure form. The headline is that Valve is making it clearer that AI-powered tools like code helpers do not trigger the need to disclose any use. Efficiency gains through the use of AI-powered dev tools is not the focus on this section. Otherwise, devs still have to disclose two different types of AI use. AI to generate content for the game, whether it be for the game itself, the store page, and we've gone on with that. What I would say though is this kind of section here, where it's like the headline is that Valve's making it clear that AI-powered tools, and then in brackets like code helpers, do not trigger the need to disclose any efficiency gain, any disclosure. Now, my sort of response to that would be, I don't know. I actually don't know, because if you're generating code for your game, or the code helpers are pushing you in a direction to say maybe you should do this with your code, or why don't you do that? Is that becoming a case of the game is being generated in some way by AI code? Now, I'm not talking generative as actually as you're playing the game, things are happening in the game and it's showing you content, but the base of the game, the code of the game is starting to get almost like vibe coded in a way because it's using a lot of these code helpers. Now, again, to be realistic here, most people are using AI tools because it is, and this is the way I want to view it in this sort of like wonderful sort of utopian world where AI is great and it never goes wrong, is it's a force multiplier. It makes you more effective at your job because you can do more things with it. The problem becomes when AI starts getting used for all this generative stuff, where it's replacing creatives, when it's, I still don't fully agree with using code, like generative code related stuff when it comes to AI. If that should be done in games, I don't know. I'm really confused. I really don't know where to go with this, because if it's just the code helper and the code helper is almost like, I don't know, like it's giving you a tutorial, let's say, how to produce code. You're not having to go to places to copy and paste other people's code. You're learning on the job, or it's making your code more efficient, or it might even be saying, hey, why don't you do your code this way? It'll be better. It'll use, less. It'll be more efficient, basically, right? So instead of this thing being 80% efficient, we can make it 90% efficient if you do it this way. Is that crossing the line or isn't it? I don't know. But I do think if your game includes any generative art assets from AI, then that is going to be a big, big problem going forward. But I still also do believe there is going to be a point, unfortunately, because there's so much of this AI stuff around now. And I'm sure that we've been exposed to AI and not even realized it ourselves as well. And it's probably in big games. And again, we don't even know it's there. Where there's going to be a game that's going to be really successful. And it's almost like, as much as you want to go against this, can you go against it? And what could even stop this? It is frightening in some ways. And in other ways, could this just be a new way of doing things? I don't know. I'm going to leave that up to you guys in the comments below. Again, it's been a pretty long video. Whenever it's about AI, I do tend to go off into a bit of a rant because it's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. And it is almost like one of those, it's one of the big things of our time. And I just want it to cure diseases, not make generative content in games. All right, guys, thanks for watching the video. I've been Stardo. So if you enjoyed that, then let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Toodaloo.